Good evening, everybody. Buenas noches a todos. Welcome back to Lily's Pulse. And really, what I'm feeling is deep, and I know that I share it with many of you. Tonight, I have a sister here with me who I believe has helped me see the walk and the journey that we do in our communities. She's enhanced that view. She has taught me that it's not enough for a particular group to feel happy about their treatment. And actually, she confronted me one time in the most loving way. And I'll share that story because I'd love to share that story about how somebody brings light and you think you could see everything. You got the best glasses, you got magnifiers on. And then somebody comes on and says, let me clean your windshield. Let me clean your glasses. And you go, oh, okay. So with us tonight, we will have a woman who knows how to do that. Before we go there, may I please, let's bring Chetza Rodriguez up. We both have, I think it's only fair to say, heavy hearts,
Mm.
los corazones pesados, dado a las elecciones, pero antes de esto le voy a pedir a todo el mundo, el que se conecte, que me ayuden. Yo he perdido a alguien que quiero mucho, que me ha apoyado por años. I've had someone who supported the mission for many, many years. Chess, I think your volume is all the way up. And God called him, and that's my belief. And Mr. Sarasulo, this is for you. And I just want to tell you guys about Mr. Sarasulo before we walk in to talk about this topic, which is so important. And I don't think no one in this long journey of mine can probably bring more clarity than Mr. Sarasulo. Mr. Sarasulo was a superintendent of schools. He retired and continued to help others understand what a superintendent was. But more than that, he was a man of faith, a father, a husband, and an avid believer that everybody deserved love, that everybody deserved to eat, to have a home, and to be loved by the higher power. So, este programa se lo dedico de todo corazón a alguien que me ha apoyado por años, alguien que le trae muchísima luz a lo que yo hago. Papá Dios lo llamó, esa es mi creencia. Pero no creo que haya mejor ejemplo en estos momentos que el señor Sarasulo. Todos los meses él me enviaba su donación. Cada vez que yo trataba de enviarle a él una foto o le enviaba fotos simplemente para él me decía, no es necesario. Y yo le decía, sí es necesario porque yo quiero que tú veas lo que estás haciendo. Y él me dijo, no, yo confío en ti. Yo sé lo que yo estoy haciendo. And here's something he would always say to me. I would send him pictures just to get him up to date and see the smiles of people and, the work that we were doing. The last one was with Chetza, Saimar, and Wandita. We had about 60 packs of giveaways, and they went like hot cakes, and that's what we want. We want them. There's no ID, there's no requirement. There's just love in those bags, and we give them out. And I send them pictures, and I send them pictures on October 2nd, as I usually, do. He passed away on October 25th, which actually I understood that he was fighting already, but wrote to me an email and responded. And what he said to me, I think lives with me and will stay with me for a long time. He said, my health is compromised. He died on the 25th. This was October 2nd. He said, my health is compromised. Pray for me. And when you have a relationship with someone that you never had coffee with someone who actually knows what you do and you know who they are and they just want to support you, I call those clear angels. People who actually believe que todo el mundo se merece el amor que uno quiere para uno, ¿verdad? Y para nosotros, muchos de nosotros, eso es Papá Dios, el universo, lo que tú quieras llamar, la computadora mágica, lo que tú quieras. Pero este programa definitivamente dedicado a Mr. Sarasulo, I had the opportunity because I was on his list of people he wanted to contact. I never met his family, never met his children, and I was on his list. And so that tells you que uno nunca sabe. El acto grande o pequeño, mediano, como te parezca a ti que tú hagas, ¿a quién va a impactar? So, Mr. Sarasulo, this one is for you. We will continue to do the work with your love in mind all the time. So that said, I know that he would probably be sharing these heavy thoughts with us. How do we move on, señoras y señores? ¿Cómo seguimos hacia adelante después de los resultados de estas elecciones? Yo creo que yo estoy decepcionada con muchos de nuestros políticos que no salieron y alzaron sus voces. I am very disappointed with many politicians that didn't come out, right, and echoed what many of our brothers and sisters were feeling. It is very easy not to do that, right? So silence is still a loud voice as far as I'm concerned. But I found this today and I thought, oh my God, this is perfect. So listen to this. This is Dalai Lama. How could you go wrong, right? Open your arms to change, but don't let go of your values. Open your arms to change. So no nos queda otra, ¿verdad? Vamos a abrir nuestros brazos hacia el cambio. No nos queda otra, porque vivimos aquí en esta comunidad, pero no abandonen sus valores. So, comencemos con eso. Las elecciones no las podemos cambiar para aquellos de nosotros que nos gustaría, ¿verdad? Pero vamos a darle, let's give props to a woman that in 2 months and days, she was able to pull together a whole freaking campaign. That's a dangerous woman. That's somebody that you really, 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 I mean, she didn't have much time. Vice President Harris didn't have much time to put this whole campaign together. And she did, and she mobilized a lot of people. Although she was in the Oval Office, all of that fun stuff. Now this is her front and center. I don't feel any regret for supporting her. I do not feel that we should have done it differently. I think all of us who hit the paved ground, who made phone calls, I don't regret any of it. And I hope to see her around again and other sisters stepping up to the plate. So now we have the Trumper. So con nosotros me acompaña mi hermanita, como siempre le digo, Chetza Rodríguez. Ella es de la casa, personalmente para mí, al igual que para nosotros aquí en el podcast. Chetza, how are you?
I'm okay. Keeping it together. I can't lie. I am very disappointed, but I've just spent the day really trying to dig through why I'm so upset, why I feel the way I feel, right? Who am I upset at? About what? And what am I going to do about it? So that's where I've spent all day today.
You are definitely one of the people that I feel like we can do a 911 with and come up with something. Hay gente en la vida tuya que tú puedes llamar al 911 con ellos y decir, tenemos que hacer algo, and we will get it together, and we will figure it out. Chetza es una de ellas. Chetza, una de las cosas que yo compartí contigo era la importancia de nosotros mantenernos unidos. Y de verdad ser de verdad la barrera entre lo que viene, que se ha dicho que viene, que esperemos en Dios que no, que todo haya sido mentira, porque al mentiroso se le ora para que siga con las mentiras y no diga y no haga nada, ¿verdad? So esperemos en Dios que todos nosotros estemos equivocados y que pues nada de lo que él pues amenazó con vaya a suceder, pero sabemos ya, and I've said this to you, Chetza, we knew on 2016, we were hoping that people voted for Trump out of an experiment, out of hating politics so much, out of, like now, this election, it is clear to me what we value and what we don't. And it is clear to me, this is not a novelty. We've already seen how he enforced policy, and what he didn't like, well, he just decided he would make it. And let's talk about all of that. Con nosotras están nuestras hermanas. You're having an issue with audio. I am. Tell me again. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me? Chetza, you can hear me?
Okay. I can hear you.
Okay, great. Why don't you tell us a little bit, Chetza, about what are your thoughts about this? How do we move forward?
In my mind, I think our first choice is to is to talk about it, right? We need to talk about it and we need to talk about it locally. Um, I think that yes, this particular campaign was like I'm only really got involved in those last 2 months, right? So the results are not necessarily surprising, but they were still hurtful. And more hurtful this time than in any other election cycle that I have been a part of in my life so far. And that's what was surprising to me. I was like, why am I so hurt by this? Um, but it just reminds me that the moment that we relax, the moment we stop having the conversations, the consistent conversations, right, that it goes away and people go back to their status quo, because to fight for justice, to fight for what is right, even though it's not you who is being mistreated, takes a lot of energy and time and effort, right? And so if you have the privilege to not have to fight the fight, then maybe you sat down, and you stopped having the conversations, and you stopped having like being informed of what people are necessarily going through to make sure that those things are actually met. So, so yeah. So I come down to right now, my analysis right now, anyways, is that um, I'm more upset at I'm upset that I stopped having the conversations. So I'm upset at myself, and I lost a little faith, you know, in other people. But I get emotional about it, apparently, because it's been an emotional day for me. So excuse my tears.
No, women should never apologize for crying. Nobody should ever apologize for crying when there's an emotion back there. That's part of our problem.
Yeah.
So, ustedes que están aquí, ¿qué están pensando? ¿Qué podemos hacer? Me preocupa mucho que algunos de nosotros, sí sabemos que muchos de nosotros vamos a poder sobrevivir. Porque estamos en posiciones que probablemente, si no nos enfermamos, si no pasa una tragedia, si nada de eso y podemos sobrevivir esos 4 años, we are going to be okay. But because we are human beings, we will be impacted and hurt and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying that you have, the perfect way. What I'm saying is that people are at different spaces right now. And equality is something we really, really, really have to look at now. Who in the face of this administration, if anybody, has value? And how do we hold people to the fire? From our local politicians to our state politicians to anybody who's involved in our communities. Cheta, you've been doing this for a long time. You do community organizing. You chat with people all the time. You just have that magnetizing charisma and intelligence to boot. What are you thinking we could do? I mean, you and I have had a text or two and so on and so forth.
Yeah. But I think that since I'm not as hopeful that bad things are not going to come our way, because they've already been prepared and we've already been told that they're coming, right? So, and I am glad to hear, and I received some emails that there's national organizations have been preparing, right? They're like, no, we're already preparing to do this, to continue this fight. But I think that on a local level, we need to get ready too. I think that we need to organize ourselves again and create and build community, which means that we haven't had the opportunity since COVID, really, to build deep connections of trust with people. It's been lacking. You reconnected. You have some conversations. You see each other in person sometimes. But true connection and being and demonstrating being there for each other and hearing out the complexities of issues and how they might be connected, like we stop doing that. So I think that we need to create a space for that to happen again. And in that way, not only just like, because I loved the mutual aid work that started once COVID hit, um, but really is about how do we connect with each other and prepare to be able to fight against policies, and how do we educate ourselves about policies and where we stand on them, so as to know where and how to push, right? But we need to create the infrastructure to do that. We need to have the relationships with each other. We need to trust each other to be able to go and have this fight together, versus for what we do want, right? Not for what we don't want, because we can't. We've had two major like national elections. It's about voting against someone, but we know that does, and this just reinforced it. That doesn't work. You have to fight for what you want, what you do want, not what you don't want. But it's like that's the minimum. And honestly, that's how come I lost a little bit of hope, right? Because I was like, dude, that's the minimum. What you don't want, like we can't even get there. But again, that's just the cynic side coming out. The hopeful one says, no, Chieta, it's okay. This just creates and heightens the need, and therefore our commitment to show up for each other. Um, and it's going to take a little time, but I think that, honestly, I think that for right now, I think if we create a space, and this is why I came on here with you today, it's like we need to create a space to be able to talk about it, at least to start talking about it, with those that we feel safe to do so that then we can expand the conversation broader and broader, and then we can all have it. Um, and and I think that's just what has to happen, in my opinion.
Some people are saying they have trouble with the audio. I have good audio over here. You have good audio over there. So I don't know what that is. I'm sorry, you guys, unless somebody else tells me something. But that's where we are. Yo quiero recalcarle a todos ustedes que queremos conversar con ustedes sobre lo que podemos hacer próximamente. Y nos hace falta comunidad. Esos lugares donde uno se siente completamente, Chet habla español, so esto no es.
Sí.
Esos lugares donde uno se siente seguro, apoyado y no juzgado. Por el mero hecho de que tenemos preguntas, de que a veces no estamos de acuerdo, de que a lo mejor tú pienses que debemos de ir por algún lugar y yo por el otro, pero tenemos la misma meta. So vamos a ver cómo llegamos allá. Pero dejamos de hablar y de conversar. Y Chetza, tú traes un punto a colación que yo creo que es bien importante. Pasó COVID. Antes de eso ya teníamos el huracán María. México había pasado por muchísimas cosas. Nosotros estábamos todos corriendo, depilados, como uno dice. Pero aparte de eso, llegó la pandemia, lo cual no nos dejó, ¿verdad?, congregarnos como nosotros estábamos acostumbrados, o lo extrañamos y lo respetamos más durante la pandemia, porque extrañamos mucho. Muchos de nosotros nos extrañamos el uno al otro, ¿verdad? Lo que podíamos hacer antes, que parecía cotidiano, ahora era vital. So, no tenemos esos espacios. So, a nivel nacional, ya las personas están respondiendo, agencias y ese tipo de cosas, pero me gusta la idea en particular de hacerlo a nivel comunitario, tu comunidad, la mía, la de nosotros. Que en muchas ocasiones pues se le dice el grassroots, pero estamos hablando de tu café con el mío, de tu té con el mío, de tu copa de vino, lo que sea. Cercano suficiente para nosotros tener conversaciones. Así lo tengamos que hacer en Zoom, así lo tengamos que hacer como nosotros queramos, pero yo creo que físicamente es bien importante respirar el mismo aire.
Compartir un poquito de comida.
Sí, ñam, 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 como dice la pequeñita. Quiero escucharle a ustedes también. He recibido, lo quería compartir con ustedes, tengo la notita ahí, he recibido 3 llamadas. Una de ellas, pues, es la preocupación de deportación injustamente que es un argumento bien grande. So people are having questions. People send me their messages. Some of them, I can't mention their names because that's what they're requested. And unless somebody says I can, my rule is don't, because somebody didn't give you permission. So you can't give yourself permission to somebody else's story or somebody else's voice.
Right.
Never do that, please. So she says, I am really concerned about deportation. I'm really concerned, is somebody going to come to my home? How is it all going to work? Should I be already moving back to my country? I work here, I pay taxes. I'm absolutely concerned. As you know, I have a little boy who is 7 years old and a fan of basketball. He can play here, but he would not be able to play back home. Thoughts. ¿Qué piensan ustedes? No empaquetes y te vaya, ¿verdad?
No,
Ah,
no.
So es tiempo de traer a los expertos, pero más que nada y aquellos que trabajan en la comunidad para la comunidad. No porque trabajes en la comunidad quiere decir que estás trabajando para la comunidad. See, I'm old school, very old school, and I love it that way. I love it. That's one thing I do not want to change. Are we working in our community or in somebody else's community, or are we working for the community? Those two things are different for me. They should marry, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they do, which we've seen through history. Just if we want to get together, break it down to basics for us, because you're so good at that. How do we put a group for all of us that want to sign up as of now, right? But there's people who want to do it in their community of faith, or they want to do it, in the community center where they live at, or they just want to have coffee in one of the coffee shops, or go to their public library. I mean, how does that invitation go?
It can be as simple as sending.
Ahora ya cobra mucho dinero por esto.
Puede ser tan simple como mandarle un texto a 5 de tus amistades para reunirse para poder hablarlo, ¿me entiendes? Empiezan con poquito y con ustedes, y dependiendo cómo va la conversación, a las cosas que sí quieren discutir, las cosas que compartieron de que consideran más importantes, pues entonces esas 5 personas pues invitan otras 3 más. Y hablamos más de ello, y entonces tomamos a ver qué acciones se necesitan de tomar, pero a lo mínimo uno lo que hace es poder compartir de que sí están parados en el mismo lado. Porque la cosa es que definimos las cosas bien diferentes y tenemos que hablarlo para realmente entendernos, ¿verdad? Para que no son solamente like little clips or little media buzzwords that
Se nos fue Chetza, pero estoy segura. Mírale.
Sí, es que me llamaron y se me va. Tener que estar defendiéndome yo por frases que se utilizan en el media para describir my stance on issues, and I'm like, okay, it shouldn't be that, right? It should be like, okay, let's define what we're talking about. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about based on my personal experiences, and recognizing that my personal experience is not everybody else's experience.
Woo, preach.
Right? Which doesn't make me wrong, right? It makes us both right and both wrong, because we don't have the full picture. Nobody does. So the more that we share and talk about our particular experiences, we can then come to a common ground of what points we want to address and what points we're like, no, we're leaving that,
I love the idea of having conversations before we get to, and that's why you've always been so impactful for me, because the woman can, take a group with brain injury like me and ADHD and, donde está la ropa cocina kind of mentality, and keep us together. And she's already done it in very many forms. And that's how I met her. But Chetza I like the idea of conversation first to figure out what's our language, right? I always say to people that there is many words that we use that some people will call slang, colorful, bad words, all of that kind of stuff. And many of us use them differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's figuring out how people, and can people ask questions? Are we open to having people ask questions? Like I had one that said, but did you really think a woman could run this country? And of course, my ovaries came together because I still have them, which is,
I said yes. Right?
no, my entire stomach went, "Ugh!"
No, no, sí, que no te
So,
digo.
no, pero entonces pienso, o pierdo la oportunidad de tener esta conversación con esta persona porque ellos piensan que una mujer no tiene la capacidad, la habilidad, tú sabes, la disciplina, porque los estudios la sobrepasan, ¿verdad? Académico, ¿por qué todavía nosotras mismas nos vemos como el género débil? Porque somos nosotras mismas. Ya las opiniones
De los demás está afuera,
los
eso
demás
es.
está afuera, pero nosotras mismas, al decir cosas de esta naturaleza, pensamos que no nos estamos tirando a nosotras mismas y que no, we don't practice sexism. And I'm like, sí, pero hablando con ella, esto fue lo que entendí para que comencemos esa conversación. Ella me dice, como nunca ha habido una mujer presidenta,
Aquí.
yo pensé que tenían que ser hombre y me confundí cuando ella corrió. She thought that the biggest opposition that they were giving Vice President Harris was because she was a woman.
Because she was a black woman.
So after we started going through it and stuff like that, she was confused about why they were giving her a hard time. I mean, not political debate. It was, nasty. Why were they doing that? And she thought that always presidents could only be males. A este nivel tenemos que nosotros hablar de cuál es la constitución de los Estados Unidos, de cómo practicamos esas leyes que decimos que existen y todas las que creamos nuevamente, que de verdad ya existieron en los libros 30 años atrás, que yo le digo a todo el mundo, vamos a buscar primero antes de establecer movimientos nuevos. This is at this level. That's why I like your idea of conversation first.
Yeah, porque hay que saber qué se sabe y qué no se sabe. ¿Entiendes? Hay que saber what do we have in the room, what knowledge do we have in the room, what's experienced in the room, so we can identify what's missing, right? But again, we have to recognize that we don't know it all, and that our worldview is not the only one; it's just ours, right? But we're also not alone. Eso sí también quería decir hoy, que era importante, pero yo creo que es importante para yo escucharlo y sentirlo, es que yo no soy la única que se siente así, como me estoy sintiendo, que se siente defraudada, y que cree que es importante pelear en contra de la injusticia. Right? Because I'm the type of girl, even since I was little, that if I'm in a classroom and the teacher's being mean to you, but they're super sweet to me, I'm going to be like, yo, why are you being so mean? And trying to stop the teacher from being mean to you. Right? Innately, for me, because I can't live like that. I can't live in a room where I see it blatantly, you being an bleep bleep against somebody. And I'm like gonna just stand back just because I don't want you to start messing with me. No, I know you're gonna come for me anyway. So I'm be like, mira, ¿qué tú te haces? And then don't do that because that's not okay. Because I don't think that's okay. It makes me feel bad.
Clarification, she has a little man in her house, a little boy. So the mother and her came out and said, no.
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 And then my follow up to that is to check in with the person, right? And be like, how you doing? You okay? And it's like, how you want to attack this?
How you want to attack this?
If you want to, or if you don't, right?
No,
Porque la primera, I speak
no.
out against injustice for me. I'm not out to save nobody, right? I do it for me. I recognize that it's for my own benefit, for my own peace, for what I think is right and just, right? And then the idea is, how do I become an ally to those who are being oppressed? If I have such privilege to be able to do so, which is why I go and check with you, be like, how do you want to handle this? How can I support you? If you want it. If you don't want it, that's okay too.
you have a practice that I love, which you shared with me, and you said, I respond and I ask, how can I help? Right. But it's up to the person to define, how can I help? And I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very impactful to me because we reacted differently to a situation. So it's like we had three tiers. The 911, the first one that read the 911 in the chat was, do you know? Second one to read the 911 was, how can we help? And the third one who read was like, I'm going to take all, okay, I'm going to find it. I'm going to find this person. I'm going to find their need. So three people, same group, you know, I would say like-minded people,
Mm-hmm.
same gender, all of those things. We all had a different approach to the same outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that example fascinating. And then when you said that to me, I was like, oh, I love this. I'm stealing this.
Yeah. And it also, I mean, it comes into play. To me, it's easier to see depending on your relationship with people, right?
Mhm.
Because like I see you, part of the way that I see you, Lily, is that you are an action-oriented person with solutions because your experience is giving you these things work. It's like if this is a similar situation, we can try these things. So the ideas of what to do, you got. You're like, oh, let's vamos, papa, and you run. All right. Um,
I've been told to stop.
well,
By
you
a
can't run
couple
without the
people.
people. So, no, porque después uno, porque también uno no puede pelear por los demás. Ellos tienen que pelear por ellos mismos. You cannot do for others what they can do for themselves. Because if they can do it for themselves and they're not doing it, then they're not doing it for a reason. We just don't know what it is. And they might not know what it is, right?
Mm.
So, and that's okay. The idea is then give that to be a clue. Be like, so let's ask. If this is an issue, why aren't you addressing it? There's a reason why you're not addressing it. Do you want to dig into that? Okay. If you want ideas on how to, let me know. I can give you mine, or if I have none, I'll call some people like Lily to get ideas on what to do.
Work together. I think that hearing you laugh, I think it's important for us to be able to cry and laugh.
Mm,
It's important for us to be able to have stories to share with one another. It's important to recognize who in our communities have been doing this
mhm.
with their heart and soul.
Yeah.
Listen, there's politics in politics, and there's politics on the streets, and there's politics in each of our homes. Who's in charge of what? Who does what? You said what? I don't like it that way. And then the negotiation, cohabitation, and all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
everybody has politics all over. Todo el mundo que me dice, a mí no me gusta la política, yo le digo, pues la política está en tu casa, está en tu comunidad de fe,
Mhm.
está en la calle, porque hasta la calle tiene una política, ¿ok? Do not go
Sí.
to the hood unless you know what's on the roof. So you got to be clear on who's the boss.
Mhm.
En todas partes, son todos nosotros que yo escucho decir, ay, yo odio la política. Yo le digo, política está donde quiera y es lo que mueve el cobre, señores, lamentablemente. So nosotros podemos salir hacia adelante después de esta elección, pero primero yo creo que la gente necesita como sanar, incluyéndote a ti, a mí
Mhm.
y a otros. So let's talk about that. How, because I really the brain is this big right now. Like
Mhm.
me duele, están todas las ideas ahí también, so eventualmente we just have to execute. But hay tantas cosas que hablar, informar y movilizar. So I say that to people all the time. So what do you what do the flyers say? I mean, what do we put out there for people to word of mouth is always great and it makes it a little bit easier.
Mhm.
But if we want to invite people to the conversation,
Um,
this is so abusive. I didn't even ask her to be.
honestly, I just see the flyer saying, "Let's talk about it." You know?
Ooh, I like this. Let's talk about it. What would be our first three issues? Because we don't all feel the same
Mhm.
about what are the priorities? And so I interviewed, you were there with me. We
Mhm.
interviewed over 4 politicians or something like that, 3, 4 I can't remember. Um, Great interviews. But the common thing was housing, 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 housing. And so
Mhm.
we gotta really dive into what are those issues in housing, not just housing, and what's affordable and what's not affordable. What does that mean to people? What
Mhm.
does it mean to us as activists and grass and, some people think affordable is $2,000.
Huh.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
'Cause the math, as Bill Clinton said one time, the math don't lie. And so
Yeah. I saw a great presentation. The Harvard Food Share has a great presentation about how much you have to make like an hour to be able to afford um, to live in the state of Connecticut for a family of four, right? And I think for a family of four, um, it was like $108,000 a year. And I was like, oh my God, no, there's four
that's
people over
it.
here. And the data is based on 2022, so it's already behind. And the amount that was allotted for housing was like $1,100 and some change, so $1,200. And I was like, okay, so that's not even real. And already the amount needed to be able to live, right? Pay rent, buy groceries, go to work. If you have childcare and kids, it was already at an amount that you're like, okay, how many jobs do I have to get that? Right?
Literally.
Because everybody doesn't have the opportunity to have a job that pays that, to have one job that pays that much, or make it harder if you have only one income family versus having a two income family that maybe you could reach that amount. I mean, it's very, very difficult. So yeah. And it's not only just how affordable it is, but what are the other components that go into that, right? So not only the access to what level of education is needed to get what are the jobs that are available, um, to be able to do that, whether there is stock market, like in terms of available housing to rent and where, because I also like 2 years ago did the Harvard Health Leaders Project, and part of the presentations there on like the social determinants of health and the whole nine is like depending on areas, you can look by particular areas and like people's um, longevity, right? How long you live is impacted by where you live because of the lack of access and contamination and all these different factors that shorten your life, right? So then you think about housing, then you also think about, do I get to choose where I want to live, or am I only going to be able to find a home I can afford in an area where then there's data to show that I'm going to live less? Like, who chooses that? Nobody chooses that, right? And we shouldn't have to. And the idea is, how do we then, as we flush out our experiences, right? Where do we get these ideas? Why do I feel this strongly about this, right? Then you pick, okay, so which one's most important? Which one am I going to attack first? And who's with me, right?
Vital,
So,
vital. Who's with me? And you know what? I think it's so important in our community. Ya yo tengo 56 años, le doy gracias a Dios por la salud, ¿verdad? Pero yo me acuerdo que el movimiento cuando yo tenía 20, 17 años, el movimiento hoy todavía es el mismo. Para
mhm,
todos aquellos que deciden trabajar con el pueblo, para el pueblo, con resultados para el pueblo. So at the grassroots level, we had a lot more boots on the ground than we had than we have now. And some arguments are things have gotten much better. Other arguments are like, listen, you can't live in an outreach salary.
mhm,
You just can't live on $30,000, $27,000 a year. And so people grow up and they decide, I deserve better and so on and so forth. Um, but I don't see the grassroots community coming together because everybody's spread so thin.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
thin. Or we have the beautiful cliques in the world. I only have coffee with those. Not the folks who have made you believe that they are there for the community's needs.
Mhm.
So this is where I think we need to be very clear, and you need to have some fearless people in the room to say no.
Yeah.
And no, in the sense of we are going to have a real conversation, and we're not
Mhm.
going to wear glory hats.
Mm.
Everybody gets to say whatever they have to say, get some
Mhm.
healing if possible, referrals if
Mhm.
needed. I go to
Mhm.
therapy. And then what's the action plan?
Yeah. Y también hay que educarnos unos a los otros, ¿verdad? Y conseguir información que todavía no tenemos, aunque los que estemos ahí no sabemos, pues vamos a averiguar. Porque, por ejemplo, el hecho de que no hayan más personas haciendo grassroots organizing o realmente tratando de organizar a la comunidad es en parte porque no hay dinero no hay dinero para eso. Y la gente no puede hacer todo de gratis. La gente dice, pues si ellos quisieran, lo decían como quieran. Ajá, y ellos quieren comer también cuando lleguen a su casa, porque ellos tienen familia que tienen que mantener. Y más que porque tú crees que hay que ayudar al prójimo y uno no comer y sufrir, no se puede. Tiene que estar fuera del hoyo para ayudar a los demás a salir del hoyo. Así
Oh,
siempre
I
me dice
love
el
this.
pai
Wait,
mío.
wait, wait. ¿Tiene cómo es?
Hay que estar fuera del hoyo para ayudar al otro a salir del hoyo. ¿Entiendes?
I
Pues no puedes
love that.
ahogar y salvarte a ti, aunque no vamos a salvar a nadie, nos vamos a ayudarlos mutuamente, ¿verdad? A salir del hoyo, porque también si estamos los dos en el hoyo, pues olvídate, nos empujamos así de espalda y subimos para arriba. Siempre hay una
I'm
forma de
moving the
salir.
computer or the phone.
Oh, I'm sorry, I stopped moving my phone. but
I was going like this.
But one of the things that maybe some people don't understand is that depending why the connection between what we see on the ground and the changes in our federal government matters, right? So, el cambio lo ves porque cuando las prioridades de los que nosotros elegimos para tomar esas posiciones, ellos deciden cómo van a dividir los chavos y quiénes lo van a dar para qué, right? So, si tienes un líder federal que sí cree que es valioso que la gente esté organizada, que ellos traten de resolver sus propios problemas, pues entonces ellos le dan ese cargo a las agencias federales que entonces ellos contratan con los estados, que entonces contratan con las organizaciones comunitarias para hacer ese trabajo. Y por eso cada 3 años, las personas que trabajan para organizaciones sin fines de lucro usualmente están buscando por otro trabajo nuevo, porque esos chavos usualmente se los dan, las propuestas federales usualmente duran 2 o 3 años, ¿verdad? Y cuando se acaban esos chavos, usualmente no te dan más nada, ¿ok? So, va cambiando cada 3 años y cada 4 es que elegimos otra administración, pues cuando ellos, los valores que ellos traen en su posición de poder determina qué trabajos hay disponibles y qué sí se puede, para qué sí hay chavo, ¿verdad? Pues, pues porque uno no tampoco se puede quejar, no hay esto, y no hay otro. Bueno, pues, ¿por qué? Porque los que escogimos o no le habíamos preguntado o no le hicimos caso de que ellos creen que esta es la forma que se debe hacer. Y eso no es lo que necesariamente lo que la comunidad necesita, pero la comunidad primero tiene que poder organizarse y decir, mira, esto es lo que necesitamos. Yo no necesito que tú me digas a mí qué es lo que yo necesito, yo te voy a decir a ti. Y tú eres el que me tiene que dar a mí lo que yo te estoy pidiendo, porque se supone que tú estés trabajando por mí. And that's my little soapbox right there on that one.
I love it. I love it because it's not a soapbox. It's true. For so many of us, we didn't always know, and we continue to learn. I know I continue to learn all the time, and I'm always open. I hear somebody say something that I'm like, oh, that's really good. I want to learn more about that. Or I go, what the? I'm out. But I'm always willing to open up in my head and in my heart space to learn new things, so on and so forth. But I think all of the examples that you give us are so vital. I always talk about follow the money, which is one of my husband's, saying it. But if we follow the money going up and coming down, because one of the things that we forget is that money does go up. We got to find out where's it go. Okay. Where's it go? Where's it going? Is it getting to the destination? And I tell you why, because I worked in nonprofits most of my life, but I had leadership. Another Chetza's point, leadership that was not willing to back down and take less for really good people that they had already identified as the keepers, right? Their staff. So working with leaders that was like, no, not willing to make myself work 12 hours for 8, not willing to do that so I can go to 2 cocktail parties and everybody like me. So I had really good leaders in those entities. So I didn't have to move every other year. I knew people every 6 months because there was a short period. There were so many pilot projects, which is the federal government's romance to money. Those are the romantic words that you hear. It's a pilot program,
Yeah.
which means you're going to be short at some point.
We're gonna try right now, but I make no commitment.
Right, exactly. You're gonna be short sometime. So it's the language around it, but I think it's vital to know where the money comes from and where do we place clarity, right? ¿Qué puede hacer la persona en la alcaldía? ¿Qué puede hacer la persona en una junta directiva? Porque tenemos juntas directivas. ¿Qué puede hacer una persona, verdad, a nivel estatal? ¿De qué están encargados? ¿Qué es un representante? ¿Y qué hace el representante? Espérate, ¿cómo es que el de Lili y el mío es el mismo? ¿Tú estás diciendo el representante o el congresista? So, y eso en mi casa odiaba hasta el día de hoy. Tú dices política y mi mamá quiere darte con la chancleta. Pero en mi casa era así. Tú le preguntas a mi papá, pues, todos son unos, guatepita y ya está. So I didn't grow up in a home. Para todos ustedes que piensan, pues no, lo que sabemos, no lo que sabemos, lo que yo sé de política no fue en mi casa, no fue en mi familia. De hecho, fue a través de mis intereses y mi corazón siguiendo y aprendiendo. Y eso es lo que yo estoy buscando ahora, que nosotros pues compartamos espacio, like Cheta said, and we continue to and we gotta learn and turn stuff into a verb and then make it into an action. Because being a support group without any action just means a support group to me, and I choose my support groups very, very carefully. Right? My circle's small. For those people who know me, know my personal circle is small. I want to be able to give attention and love to the people I care about. So my circle can't be too big because I can't handle it. So, Chetza, in your opinion, and in the opinion of people who are watching this or watching it later, I would love to hear how can we do this. So our invitation to you, including Chetza, including, I believe, Juanita, who said yes, is let's talk. Let's talk. What did you say? Let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about it. I think that's great. Porque traduce muy bien en inglés y en español. Pero tener conversaciones sinceras y hasta crudas. Porque tenemos lealtades también. Muchos de nosotros estamos conectados en nuestras comunidades y hay unas lealtades emocionales que uno tiene y a veces uno tiene que separarlas o decir, I'm not able to do that.
Sí. Pero honestamente, después que uno, bueno, a mí, el estilo mío, a mí me gusta ser honesta con cuáles esas son, ¿entiendes? Porque I don't have to defend them to you. They're just what they are, right? And I can just be honest so that I don't misguide you in what my commitment is, right? And part of that really is that the conversation has to also start about who am I? And who are you? we need to talk about culture. We need to talk about who we are, what our particular culture is, what parts of that we align with, what experiences we've had, and share those with each other, to get to know each other and also to see our beauty. And I've been dying to see the John Leguizamo PBS special, about all the things that has been erased of our Latino heritage and what we have accomplished, because we tend to believe all the negative things said about us, and we don't believe it about us. We said about all those other people
Sí,
that,
el grupito aquel, tú
tú
sabes.
sabes, no soy yo, son esos otros puertorriqueños que votaron mal, que se creen, porque una de las siempre se que se creen tan blancos que no ven a más nadie.
A
¿Verdad?
panqueque.
Esas cosas, esos detallitos, eso hay que discutirlo también. Tenemos que realmente hablar quiénes somos, por qué nos vemos como nos vemos, a nosotros mismos, nuestra imagen propia y cómo vemos a nuestra gente y quién definimos que es nuestra gente. ¿Verdad?
Esa es una pregunta, yo creo que tan y tan brava, porque yo creo que esa pregunta es vital para uno entender quién uno es, porque yo creo que muchos de nosotros hemos estado en círculos donde hemos adaptado nuestros sentimientos, comportamiento y todo eso a los círculos. La diferencia es que algunos hemos aprendido de una forma muy sutil o menos sutil como la mía. Hemos aprendido de que no tengo que llevar 3 personas, pero sí puedo llevar 2.
Ujú.
La que confía y la que desconfía. No, en serio, las llevo a las 2. Y tienes
Ujú.
la oportunidad de hacerte amiga con desconfianza o confianza.
Sí.
Ah, puedes hacer una amistad, pero confianza es la cercanita para mí.
Ujú.
Pero todo esto, ¿cuál es el lenguaje que nosotros vamos a utilizar y que podamos ser crudamente honestos? Toma tiempo,
Sí, sí.
tiempo.
Y por eso te digo que es que realmente es crear oportunidades para conocernos,
Ujú,
¿verdad? Para compartir, para crear un espacio donde confío suficiente para decirte quién soy.
ujú,
Yo soy, como tú dices, bien brava. Yo, como estaba acostumbrada desde que tenía 20 años, estaba trabajando con jóvenes y con ellos tú no puedes esconderte, tienes que ponerte en la mesa o no vamos a bregar. Pues tengo muchos años de experiencia haciendo eso y utilizándome a mí misma como el ejemplo para poder discutir las cosas. Y eso no es fácil de hacer.
ujú,
Y yo lo reconozco porque aunque tenga mucha experiencia haciéndolo, no quiere decir que no sea difícil,
ujú,
¿verdad? En este de hoy yo empecé llorando, me riendo, que tú sabes, pero ese es el regalo que yo doy y lo hago a propósito, ¿me
uh,
entiendes? Am,
el
allá el
regalo.
que lo reconozca de esa forma no, pero yo sé que esa es mi intención y así es que yo veo el mundo, en términos de que si alguien comparte su historia conmigo, me está dando un regalo, está confiando en mí de poder verlo, escucharlo, aunque no lo entienda, ¿verdad? Y pues yo hago lo mismo. Yo ofrezco el mío para que la gente pueda, para yo poder otorgarle ese inicio a una relación, para que tú sepas con quién es que estás interactuando en esos momentos, porque cuando nos dejamos hacer pensar de que no se puede confiar en nadie, que
Ujú,
todo el mundo es malo, que todo el mundo está por sí mismo nada más, ahí perdemos, ¿verdad? Ahí realmente perdemos porque eso no es verdad. Eso no es verdad. Y eso se pierde y uno se deja y muchos de los mensajes que hemos estado recibiendo es ese mismo. No confíes en los otros, hasta los mismos tuyos. No
ujú,
puedes confiar en ellos. Y eso no es así. Eso no es así. Así que realmente tenemos que unirnos de nuevo, tenemos que tener espacio en común, conocernos, compartir y prepararnos para poder batallar contra reglas que vengan, que no sirvan para la comunidad. Punto. Porque la idea no es, como tú dices, no es hacer un grupo de apoyo. It's not a support group. Para eso ya, si Dios quiere, tienes seguro médico. Si no, te ayudamos a conseguir seguro médico del Estado y cubre que uno pueda ir a una terapista o un grupo terapéutico para poder soltar las neuras ahí. Pero más allá, uno
¡Sacuden
hace
el
eso.
cerebro!
Una vez uno hace eso y tiene ese espacio para hacer eso, pues entonces eso te crea espacio en la mente para poder crear solución, identificar y crear soluciones para los problemas que nos está afectando todos los días, a mí y a otras personas como yo. Porque uno no está aquí para salvar a nadie, uno está aquí para salvarse a uno y ayudar al prójimo, ¿verdad? Al que quiere ayudar. Y pues vamos a identificarnos y vamos al mambo.
Pero yo me siento que estoy en Televisa y que las cámaras acabaron de prender y, bueno, ¿para gobernadora quién? ¿Para gobernadora quién?
No, pero Lili, tenemos que realmente crearlo, de verdad que sí. Vamos a ver si las personas demuestran interés y si tienen interés para reunirnos y empezamos, pues empezamos.
Estamos
¿Ok?
hablando de que el grupo no tan solo va a ser de habla española, como decía mi abuela, sino que tenemos que también invitar y abrir la mesa para todas aquellas hermanas que a lo mejor no hablan español, prefieren hablar inglés porque es su primer lenguaje, porque he sido educados así. Y cualquiera que quiera venir a la mesa que comparta estos sentimientos encontrados y quiera de verdad tomar acción para proteger en contra de las reacciones que ya sabemos pues que hay un plan de trabajo. So for all of you, I want you to know that this call for uh, Chetza, stop me if I'm speaking out of turn, but for Chetza and I, um, and Wandita is really about how do we get together to protect our forever. And so this is what we really need to ensure. If you don't feel, like, oh, I don't speak Spanish, I can't, no, that's not it at all.
Ujú,
Oh, bilingual it up. Don't worry. We will mess it up too. English and Spanish. I'm
ujú,
capable of doing both. You are welcome. What we're looking is for people who are like-minded, for women who are as concerned as we all are, um, about us, our daughters, our granddaughters. This is not a conversation that we wanted to have. So we are being forced, even for those who never had the conversation before, about what equal access to health is. What really is discrimination. One
ujú.
is how we see it, other how the law sees it. Who's at risk right now? And I don't think we can take much time to address some of this. We need to
Ujú,
make some noise at the ground to ensure that we have a conversation, that we build the relationships, that we connect to some old relationships that we've had, and we'll be very pleasantly surprised to see them. So just let us know that is, wow, this is, yes, 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 need to go forward. All we need to make is change. This is Wanda Ehlers. Yo le voy a tirar al medio a ella. ¿Saben por qué? Porque la Wanda Ehlers nunca quería hablar de política, ¿ok? Cuando yo la conocí, ¿ok? No quería hablar de política. Y ahora, cállala, santo, porque vamos a estar hablando por rato. Y yo creo que no es quien comience. Yo le digo esto siempre a la gente, no es quien comience el grupo, es quien sazona, alimenta el grupo.
ujú.
So, el mero hecho de que, pues, nosotras hagamos esta invitación no quiere decir que cualquiera puede crecer y seguir en sus comunidades y crecer aún más y llevarlo a donde usted quiera. So, bienvenido.
Cree su propio grupo si desea, empiézalo con tus amistades.
y nos envían fotos, nos dejan saber para nosotros pues continuar hablando de esto. Chelsa, tú sabes que yo te adoro, te amo, te quiero. Le doy gracias a Dios porque existes en el universo. Muchas gracias por siempre estar conmigo, por compartir la mesa, aparte de tu horario y de ser mamá y de tener un trabajo de tiempo completo y muchísimas otras cosas que haces. Te quiero un montón.
Ya.
Quiero dejarlos a todos ustedes con mira lo que dice Wandita, really, me vas a tirar al medio los trapos. El refrán de nosotros, no saques los trapitos al sol, mami, ¿ok? No te tires, que te pueda golpear, no te tires.
Mm,
Pero los quiero dejar a toditos con el mismo mensaje. El cambio llegó, está
mm,
aquí. Ahora es cómo nos preparamos para lidiar con esos cambios, pero no para quedarnos sentados, sino para
ujú,
sentarnos, para levantar el vuelo, para volar. Y eso es lo que tenemos. Por favor, si escuchan de personas que están a riesgo en la comunidad por una razón o la otra, llamen, llamen a esos referidos que ustedes tienen para que esas personas puedan ser protegidas. Si alguien le ha divulgado, y ahora me puse un poquito más seria, pero quiero esto antes de irnos, si alguien le ha divulgado a usted que su situación en este país no es de ciudadanía, por favor, no hable con nadie. Si ustedes quieren esa persona, Juancho Pecho que quiere el nombre de esa persona, Juancho Pecho que quiere, no, usted no tiene nada que ver con eso. Es el momento más importante para nosotros recalcarnos a nosotros mismos que a pesar que uno sabe algo personal de alguien o alguien está en el proceso, lo que sea, no nos da el derecho a nosotros de divulgar esto, y menos ahora,
ujú,
que sabemos que pues no es el río que está sonando, se nos inundó la casa.
ujú.
Chetza, do you have some words before we call it a night?
Yes, a little bit. And little kind of work related, but not really.
Yes.
Mira, vi un post de una amiga, una vieja compañera de trabajo mío, que puso que ahora en el trabajo donde estaba trabajando, que la gente que ha cambiado como que el espacio y la gente se siente bien emboldened y diciendo unas cosas terribles a las personas. Si usted se siente que está siendo discriminado por su nacionalidad, su género, su raza, su edad y un montón de otras clases protegidas, usted tiene el derecho de poner una querella y demandarlos a través de la Comisión de Derechos Humanos y Oportunidades. ¿Ok? Y ahora que la gente está así tan entusiasmada con que ellos se creen que ser malo es lo que tiene permiso, lo que te está dando es mucha evidencia que tú puedes probar en su contra que porque te están maltratando es por una razón protegida por la ley. Así que
Habló
usen
la
las
licenciada.
usen las herramientas que tenemos para pelear por la equidad y por la justicia, ¿ok? Y la discriminación usualmente es algo que es difícil de probar, pero cuando las personas se ponen así embolden, cometen errores y te dan la evidencia necesaria para probar que lo que están haciendo es discriminación y eso es en contra de la ley.
No firmen nada. Recuérdense que siempre le he dicho eso, no firmen nada. Señoras y señores, yo espero verlos mucho más, porque quiero de verdad que esta conversación pues continúe. So for all of you, thank you so much for your support. My brothers and sisters, you know that here we're going to feel each other's pulse because that's what we have to do. We got to put our finger on the pulse
Finger
right
on the
now. We
pulse.
don't have, yeah, we got to feel our pulse. Some of us feel dead, but it can't be this good. I hope, maybe, I don't know. Who knows? I haven't been there yet, so maybe it's better. I don't
Don't
know.
find out yet. Don't find out.
No. Natural, natural. Pero les dejo un chiste, les dejo un chiste. I want to tell you this joke. Chetza, she doesn't wear any makeup, and so has this beautiful skin. And she says, "Oh no, that's why I love you because you look so great." And it does. what did you say? Something like that. And so I'm like, this takes work.
Natural beauty, baby.
I said, no, there's nothing natural about me but my heart, my soul, my words. Because the rest of it, esto es cortesía de Sheila, aquí está Maybelline, Kind Science. Bueno, usted no sabe cuántas paratas hay aquí dentro. So, pa'l cuco. Pero que Dios me los bendiga, Dios me los acompañe siempre. Esa siempre está riendo. Ríanse más.
Yeah.
Ríanse más. Mira, mi abuelita decía, todo el mundo va para el hoyo. Ni tú ni yo nos salvamos.
Ujú.
¿Ok?
So así.
So, no pierdan el tiempo. ¿Ok? Con nuestras loqueras nos vamos a reír, pero también somos bravas. No te olvides de mí.
Ujú.
¿Ok? Así se dice. Buenas noches a todos ustedes. Everybody's welcome. Don't forget, share it with your friends. Okay, be kind to one another and fight the right battles.
Ujú.
Okay, good night, babies.